Welcome to It's Settled, the podcast that takes you behind the scenes of what happens after a serious injury.
Hear authentic, inspiring stories from those who face life-challenging injuries, their loved ones, and industry professionals working to make a difference.
I'm Andrea Mills, Chief Client Officer at Ametros.
And I'm Melissa Coleman, Senior Vice President of Marketing at Ametros.
Now, it's settled. Let's dive into the episode.
Welcome to another episode of It's Settled, the Ametros podcast. I'm Melissa Coleman, joined by my co-host.
Hi, everyone. I'm Andrea Mills. And today we're joined with a special guest, one of our members that are on our platform, James Passmore. Welcome, Jimmy.
How you doing?
Good. Thanks so much for being on. So you're one of our members on our platform. You've been a member now for a while, and we really just wanted to hear about your experience kind of through your injury and your recovery and kind of the things you've been doing since then, and what your interests are, what your hobbies are. We'd just love to learn more about you as a person. So, if you don't mind kicking us off and sharing a little bit about, what your career was and what you were doing for a job when you were injured.
Well, I started UPS when I was 18 years old, loading trucks. I loaded trucks for 3 years. Then I went to driving a package car and drove a package car for about 23 years. And then the last 5 years, I drove tractor trailers for UPS. And that is pretty much, UPS has been my only career.
Gotcha. Well, that's really cool that you got your CDL license and everything to drive those big trucks. Were you ever worried about being injured on the job, or, you're just going about your business every day?
Not really worried. I did, jumping in and out of package cars. I broke both ankles before, sprained them, just typical stuff. But I was never ever worried about an accident, really, because they put you through such strenuous training and all, and as far as driving. And I had been in a package car, like I said, for like 23 years before I got into the tractor trailer driving, and I was in it for 5 years before the accident.
Gotcha. Yeah, I know UPS has a lot of training programs and training opportunities to make sure people get hurt or people do not get hurt. And then recently I jumped out of the back of our truck and thought, gosh, I'm too old to be jumping out of the back of our truck that's a couple feet off the ground. I was like, you should not be doing that. So it just happens when, your body ages on you.
Mm-hmm. It does.
Jimmy, are you able to share with us, kind of the details around the accident that caused your injury?
Out of our center, there was three tractor trailer drivers, and because I was the new, even though I've been with the company so long, I was the new person. I was bottom man on the tractor trailer pole. So New Year's Eve, somebody had to work, and I was coming out of the Atlanta hub on Fulton Industrial, and was pulling a set of doubles and coming out my normal way, traffic light there. I've been through hundreds of times. It was raining. It's 4 a.m. in the morning. I started the left-hand turn on Fulton Industrial, and I got T-boned right between the front axle and my door. And by the time he was going so fast, by the time we got stopped, it looked like I was going straight down the highway to the right. It knocked me out. And when I came to, I felt the truck chugging, like trying to go over something. And I shut the truck down, set the brake, got out. And what it was trying to go over was what was left of the guy's car. And it had ripped. It was an Accord, and it had ripped it in half long ways. My front license plate on the front bumper was actually touching his right shoulder. He was drunk, 19, 20 years old. The only thing that happened to him was the airbag broke his nose. Uh, Me and some bystanders pulled him out of the car. They took us to Grady Hospital, which I'd had previously had a cervical neck fusion. Um, when they got me to Grady, they was just really concerned with it, and that's what they were focused on. And they'd done some X-rays, but they didn't do a CAT scan or anything of my head, even though on the impact it slammed me sideways into the door frame, and I had like a big skint place on the side of my head. Well, they kept me for about 10 hours and released me. And other than having a kick-ass headache, I felt all right. I was a little stove up stiff the next day or two, which, is normal. And I went on they put me on leave because they have to investigate the accident and all that. And plus, had to wait for a doctor's release. 29, well, about 25 days later, I just was getting headaches that you couldn't imagine. It's about like a migraine, and throwing up, memory loss, mood changing. So my caseworker at the time was Julie Hammond, and she said I needed a stat MRI of my brain. And I drove an hour, 15 minutes to where the x-ray place, because I lived in a little bit small town in rural Georgia, and the closest place was an hour and 15 minutes away. And so I drove myself and went in there, and I'd had MRIs done before. And I know they last 30, 40 minutes. And as soon as they started clicking off these first pictures, they stopped everything, and they started calling Dr. Stat to radiology. Well, they left me in the x-ray tube for like 45 minutes and wouldn't tell me what was going on. So I started wiggling out, and they told me I was going to have to go across the street to the emergency room. Still wouldn't tell me what was going on. And they was going to call an ambulance, come get me. And I was like, no, I drove here. And I was like, I'll drive across the street. And so I was calling one of my coworkers and was telling him, I don't know what's going on. They told me to go over here to the hospital, and there was a doctor and two nurses with a Gertie. They told me to go to the emergency room over there. They would be waiting on me. There was a doctor and two nurses with a Gertie waiting on the doc there. And I was telling him, I was like, man, they must have a bad wreck come in. And I told him that the doctors were out there, and went in the emergency room and told the receptionist my name, and she hollered back to them, he's in here. And still, I don't know what's going on. And they got me in an emergency room. My blood pressure was like, it was a miracle I didn't have a stroke. It was like 225 over like 190. And what it was is the neurosurgeon come in, and he's like, Mr. Passmore, as soon as we can get your blood pressure down, we're going to take care of this thing. And I was like, take care of what? And he's like, well, ever since the accident, you've had a subdural hematoma, and it's been bleeding. and the whole left side of your brain has a blood clot an inch thick, and it shifted your brain off center by an inch. So took me up to intensive care, and then they done the surgery about 5 o'clock the next morning, and drilled about a 1 inch hole in my head, sucked the blood out. I come out, had a drain in my head. I was in intensive care for about 10 days, and then they stepped me down to a regular room for a couple of days before they let me go home. And they had told me beforehand I would have the possibility of having, said brain was a funny thing. Some of the symptoms from the accident and the surgery could be amnesia, hand-eye coordination, and seizures. And I ended up pretty much with all of that.
Yeah.
I can imagine that, having that happen so suddenly, with the distance between that and your injury, there's probably a lot of confusion, a lot of thoughts going through your
Yeah.
mind. What were some of the things that you were thinking about going through this experience?
You mean before I found out what was going on?
I guess after too, having gone through it so quickly in a short period of time, having so much happen.
Yeah, I mean, I thought I was, when they released me from the hospital and all, and the soreness from the wreck wore off, I thought I was okay. And then afterwards, my caseworker was in the emergency room. I was in the intensive care room and with my wife, and they had hung a bag of Dilantin IV, and it was to prevent seizures. And when they hung that bag, she told my wife I'd never have my CDLs again because of seizures, and because of I lost part of my vocabulary, simple words that I couldn't. I knew what I wanted to say, but I couldn't get the word out. I couldn't remember the word. I was swapped over to a catastrophic casualty caseworker. Her name was Pamela Vallo, and if it hadn't been for her, I don't know where I ended up. Uh, she got me in with good neurologists and got me hooked up with the Shepherd Center in Atlanta, which is a spinal brain and spinal injury hospital, and they have a school called Pathways, and I had to 3 days a week go up there for 8 hours a day, just like regular school, and went through classes to learn my hand-eye coordination and help get my vocabulary back. And I've done that for probably 3-4 months, and that was about it.
Yeah, what a blessing in Pam though, to help you get into Shepherd and get that care that you needed, so that you
Yeah,
can, get back to, get in a recovery pattern. And I'm sure there was physical therapy and everything else tied with
yeah,
that. So that's awesome.
right.
Um, was there any key milestones that you were working towards, when you were at Shepherd, or just you wanted to kind of graduate that program?
Uh, my biggest milestone was to get my driver's license back,
Yeah.
because, I mean, on my job, I drove 60 hours a week. And then when you ain't working, that's probably another 15 hours that you drive. And all of a sudden, um, I'm dependent on somebody else to drive me wherever I got to go. and my marriage was on a downhill slant, and couldn't really count on her. And I had some real good friends that kind of like stepped in, and they knew my problem with vocabulary. And after I'd been around them for a little bit, and they knew me so well, they could finish my sentence for me. And I was like, thank you. And but yeah, the biggest milestone was to get my driver's license back. And then the next biggest milestone was to get the seizures under control. I did come out of it with migraines, bad migraines, and I was hooked up with Pam Lavallo had hooked me up with Dr. Eric Shaw, which is in the Pain Institute at Shepherd, and he's amazing. He's like his very, very last option is any kind of surgery. And he tried several different things, and he finally found how to stop my migraines. Because I was having like 2 to 3 a week, and they was lasting a day and a half, 2 days, sometimes 3 days. And I had blackout curtains in the bedroom, turn the air conditioner up, go in there, and pretty much live like a hermit. But he found out there's an occipital nerve in the back of your head, and he does a nerve ablation on it. And when he first started out, he said it burns his nerve in two. And he said it could last 3, 4, 6 months. The more we have to do it, the longer it's going to last. And I just recently, a year ago, I moved to Colorado. Tried to find a doctor out here, but they're wanting to start me back at square one when I know what works. So I ended up flying. Just a couple of weeks ago, I flew back to Atlanta to have the ablation done again. And the one before it had lasted for about 18 months. And so I'm hoping, maybe, fingers crossed, when he burned it into 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago, that'll be it. And hopefully it'll never grow back. But if it does, I've got time to find a doctor out here, but we live right at the foothills of the Rockies. So when storm fronts would come through, when they come over the Rockies, it's just like sunshine 1 minute, an hour later, it's here. And before I had the ablation done, I could just go on and get ready for a migraine, because when those low pressure fronts would come through, I was ending up, 2 days in the bed, ever how long the storm front lasted, with migraines.
That sounds incredibly challenging, and I'm glad that you and your doctor were able to find something that, provides you some relief.
Yeah.
Looking back, I know we have injured workers like yourself that listen to this podcast as well. What advice would you give to yourself at the beginning of your journey, or for folks that are kind of going through a similar situation?
Don't look at the big picture. Just day by day, put one foot in front of the other, and to just set, little goals. When I first come home from the hospital, another thing I ended up with was essential tremors in my hands. And we used to eat from the coffee table in the living room, and I could not hold a plate of food without spilling it to walk from the kitchen to the sofa in the living room. And at first, I had tremors so bad. Sometimes my wife would have to feed me, and that was really depressing, having to have somebody else to feed you. But, I worked through it, went to that pathways school. They got medicines to calm down the central tremors and the migraines. Well, not migraines, but the seizure. The last seizure I had was in 2019, which I'm on medication to control all that. But it works, and just don't give up hope, and just day by day, step by step, and just try to accomplish small goals. And before you know it, you've accomplished your big goals.
Yeah, it sounds like you've had an incredible recovery and a lot of people to help you with your nurse case manager and your friends, and um, such a great doctor and your neurologist to find that creative solution to the migraines for you. And that's great that you've not had a seizure since 2019. That's amazing.
Yeah.
Um, you know, can we transition now to a little bit about your settlement? So, what prompted you to settle your workers' comp claim, and what has the support system look like that from settling the claim to being on the CareGuard Ametros platform?
Well, in the state of Georgia, the max workers' comp payment you can get is $500 a week. I was used to bringing home 3 times that. So for 2 years, I lived on $500 a week. And my wife had had a heart attack and a stroke, so she couldn't work. I depleted pretty much all my savings and everything, trying to subsidize the money to make do. And I just told my lawyer, I was ready to settle. And we settled with UPS, and I got a monetary settlement, and they also take care. They set up annuities to take care of all my medical bills for the rest of my life, and they, the lawyers at that time, set it up with CareGuard, and somehow I don't even remember how I got hooked up with Patricia Whitney, and she's can't say enough about her. Uh, I have her email, phone number. I can call her whenever there's some kind of situation. I need to find a new doctor, whatever, to get everything cleared. And I mean, she's just been a godsend.
That's awesome to hear. We love Patty too. She's a great asset to the Ametros team. Not only helping you, but helping a lot of our members, through that.
Yeah. And a year ago, my best friend, she was offered a job to come back to Colorado, which my son had lived out here before, and I'd come and lived with him, and I really loved the climate and things to do out here. And she was offered her old job. She'd lived here before, and she was offered her old job back. And I was like, "Well, hang on, I'm going with you." And So we moved out here, and I used in when I lived in Georgia from the time I was probably 8 years old or whatever. I hunted anything that was in season that walked, crawled, swim, uh, and I'm like 64 now. I'm out here. Uh, there's bears, elk, antelope, everything out here, bison. But I just don't really feel the need to hunt with a gun anymore. And I used to be big in photography before I had kids. And so, um, actually, a year ago in May, I picked photography back up, and we took a road trip to Yellowstone, and I was able to capture the sow grizzly with her cubs, and that just kind of like set a fire in me and wanted me to do more. And I mean, that's what I live for now, is to cause of the accident. I know that tomorrow's not guaranteed, and you need to uh, pretty much live your life like there's no tomorrow, and do what you've always wanted to do. And uh, every chance we get, we always go on like weekend road trips. And like I said, we just got back. It was her birthday last week, so we went to Grand Tetons and was up there for 4 days. And I just really got into photography big and filming wildlife, and I'm picking it up, getting a little bit better. But
It's such a cool thing that you get to live in such a nice place like Colorado with such great scenery and have quicker access to probably get to those animals to take pictures of them. That's really cool to hear.
uh,
Yeah. We love Colorado. It's beautiful.
yeah, it is, and the climate. Uh, I mean, there's in Georgia during the summer, you got 90 something degrees and 90 something humidity. Average humidity out here is like 25 maybe, and which you still get the hot temperatures, but it's a, like they say, it's a dry hot, it's a different hot heat.
Do you mind if we jump back to kind of your relationship with Patty and CareGuard for a minute? Knowing what she has been able to help you with, why would you recommend, CareGuard and our support team to someone that might need help after a medical settlement, even if they think that they might not need help or support after a medical settlement?
Well, I mean, she's gone to bat with me so many times of getting doctors approved, getting medicines approved, and all that stuff that I need. Um, and without Ametros CareGuard, it'd be me fighting the big machine, uh, trying to fight the system to get stuff done. And I mean, she's just been a godsend.
I can imagine fighting that fight is probably the last thing that you want to be doing right now.
Right,
I mean,
right.
sure you'd much rather be taking photos. It sounds much more enjoyable.
Yeah, yeah. And still, I'll say I'm 80% back to my normal, but I still have like memory stuff that goes on because of the brain injury, but I still have to deal with the tremors, and I was having to deal with migraines, but hopefully, knock on wood, that part's over. But like all my visits to Shepherd and all that, I just give them my CareGuard card, and I don't see a bill. So, yeah.
That's great. That's how it's supposed to work.
Yeah.
You're not supposed to see any of those, and you're, great that you have Patty as a resource for you as well.
Yeah.
Is there anything that you're looking forward to in the future? Just more traveling, more photography, anything else you're going to get into?
Yeah. Our goal now is which I had it before my wife died. My goal was when I retired to get a truck, a, a big live-in camper, and just take off and come back when you get back. And I had I had that, and then our marriage went down. She was addicted. She was a nurse that was addicted to prescription drugs and stuff, and um, I had to leave. And I knew what I was enabling her, and I knew that once I left, it was just a matter of time. And a month after I separated from her, she overdosed, and so there I was with big truck and camper, and and by myself. So I sold it, and but with my roommate now, our goal is when she retires, or maybe before, get another big camper and be able to just go. Both of us feel like in a past life we lived in the mountains somewhere, and we just want to go, just take off exploring.
Yep. You do sound like an explorer.
Yeah.
Yeah. And sorry to hear about, your wife passing as well, but, you can fulfill that dream one day. I'm sure you're going to do it.
Yeah. Yeah, it will.
Yeah.
It's just a matter of time. I mean, I've only been out here a year now, so.
Was there anything that you would have liked us to ask you that we haven't asked you yet about your journey and your story?
The only thing I want to give credit to is from start to finish, well, start to present date, which right now I have no caseworker. I've got to the point where I don't need one, I don't think. But my first one was to Julie Hammond. She's the one that ordered the stat MRI that found the hematoma in my brain. And to Pam Lavallo, she picked up after Julie Hammond and got me into Shepherd. And then I had another caseworker, Natalie White, that was she was more somebody that I was in contact with several times a month, and I had once I was moved out and was on my own, I had so much medicine that I had to take. She got a month long pill planner, and she would come to the house she'd go by the drugstore, pick up all my meds, come to the house, set up the whole month's pill planner. So I was taking the right medicine at the right time and wasn't missing nothing. Yeah, if I hadn't had them and my closest friends, I don't know if I'd be where I'm at.
Yeah. It's great to hear about Julie and Natalie and Pam. What wonderful ladies.
Yeah, but in Patty, we email back and forth every week, and whenever I get a new set of good pictures, I'll send them to her, and she loves them. And
It's very cool. Well, we would love to show one of your pictures too when we post the episode and share it out on social media. We'd love to show some of your photography off. It's beautiful.
yeah, that's fine.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Jimmy, so much for sharing your story with us. We really, really appreciate it.
Okay.
Thank you.
I hope somebody with a brain injury, some other case or something can benefit. Just don't give up and don't try to think you're going to be out running marathons or something that, in a week or so. It's just step by step, day by day.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Message.
Yep. Great advice. All right. Well, thank you so much.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Yeah. Thanks for listening to It's Settled, the Ametros podcast. For more information about Ametros, please visit our website at ametros.com. That's AMETROS.com.
If you enjoyed this episode, please leave us a review. We would love to hear your feedback. Join us next time for more uplifting stories. Stay inspired and keep making a positive impact.